Hey, what's good? This is another Pay Me No Mind video. Um, so just a quick update. The Pay Me No Mind live stream is seriously just about ready. I got a few final tweaks to make, and I was hoping to do one tonight, but I had to go to the gym. That's why I'm in this stuff right here. So basically, Pay Me No Mind has been a podcast I've been doing the last 2 years where I talk about sports and entertainment. I'm getting ready to split it off and do boxing only on the under bite down boxing videos and the podcast, which can be found on Team Left Jab online. If you Google Team Left Jab, you can find the bite down boxing podcast there. Here on Pay Me No Mind on these videos and the podcast, which will be coming back, I'll be handling random topics, sports and entertainment besides boxing. So the first thing that I want to talk about tonight is increasingly I find myself wanting to say to a lot of rappers out here right now, old rappers, new rappers, the mumble rap crowd, whatever, is just shut up and dribble. Um, so I say that to say salute to BET and their digital originals team for. I was on Facebook earlier putting some messages out there and came across a classmate of mine had shared hashtag 20 years later, a look at or a celebration and a salute to AZ's first album or debut project, Do or Die. And it was like 25 minutes, 24 minutes long. Had Foxy on there, Nas, some producers, DR Period, I believe, was one. Um, what was the lady, the singer? I can't remember her name right now. It might come to me before I get done. That was on Sugar Hill. I cannot remember her name for anything, but she was on there. And then a music executive that signed AZ to EMI. And I've just said this the last couple years that for a lot of us in a certain demographic, hip hop was really dead uh, and non existent for a period of time, or it seemed that way. And for me, what I kept saying was hip hop actually, while there was the void in actual releases and CDs and albums, uh, hip hop really transitioned over to the podcast space. That's where hip hop, for me, as a early mid 40 fan and listener supporter of hip hop, that's where hip hop, like I found and reconnected with hip hop was in the podcast space. And that was primarily through Reggie Osei, also known as Combat Jack, and the Combat Jack Show, and his Combat Jack Show. So what I mean by rappers shut up and dribble, this goes out to not only the rappers but a lot of the people that are providing us the podcast right now. I'm tired of hearing brothers fighting and angry at one another and talking about uh, in some parts talking about their struggle. But I'm tired of the beef and the shots and all of that stuff. What I really would like to hear is how you make the music, how the music is made. Can we get back to that? So, again, I know everybody's coming from different economic backgrounds and et cetera, and struggles. And, it's this capitalistic society and economy has taken its toll on folks. I get all that. And I don't want to be, uh, I'm not desensitized to that. But again, some of these shows, some of the people that's putting this stuff out here, the content out here, the major influencers, the major outlets, with all of the subscribers and all of the reach. I just want to know how the music was made. How'd you get your name? Everybody not named Little fill in the blank. Where'd you get? When did we stop asking, rappers, what does your name mean? I haven't heard a guy talk about what his name means in like 10, 12 years. That's because most of the names, it's almost like they looked at something in the studio and said, well, I'm little so and so right here. But anyway, that was the beautiful thing and the intriguing thing, the captivating aspect of the Combat Jack show was a lot of time he had guests and they talked about the beginnings and how they loved the music. So with this 20 years later project, one of my favorite albums of all time, one of my favorite lyricists of all time, and maybe the best introduction to a MC or a voice that I've ever encountered. And they actually spent time talking about Life's a Bitch, the first time that we may have heard AZ. And a couple of different artists weighed in on it. Nas talked about how the song came together. AZ was not, and I'll put the link in here probably, but I would advise or suggest people to go find it. It's a dope 25 minutes of time. Like I said, that's where I find hip hop now, is in these mini documentaries. So salute to the BET. I haven't watched BET in probably 2 years, except for being Mary Jane. But I haven't had any. I tried to give the Man Cave program a shot, but it was on the same night as the doubleheader of the NBA. And so how could you have a show that's partially themed, on sports, but you're airing on the night that most of us are watching the doubleheader on ESPN. So that made no sense to me. But back to the documentary, just to hear all of that was fantastic. And another beautiful thing about it is that a lot of us watched these guys 20 years ago or 20, 25 years ago when they were introduced to the game and they were telling us about their first album, their first tour, and how they looked at the world at 18, 19, 20 years old. But now it's so interesting to hear their perspective, as a lot of these guys have fallen out of the spotlight or the limelight. And, some of them are just now being able to tour again with some of these old school tours that are being put together, and fans are supporting the last couple of years. Now it's interesting to get their perspective on what they were going through when they made it. The mistakes that they made, the things that they didn't value, the experiences that they overlooked or undervalued or underappreciated, business dealings that, they squandered. How it feels now to have a commercial from one of these tech companies that go and get your song that a lot of us or the mainstream may have forgotten, but now some tech company goes and gets your song and uses it in a commercial, and now that there's a check coming in and this song is revitalized. All these kids now doing the reaction videos to I mentioned this on something else, but the kids doing the the millennials doing the reaction videos to Sleeping Bag Records or the Juice Crew. So this was just great. But getting back to the Pete Rock was another person that spoke on there, how that, his contribution to the project. But specifically, two things. Looking at how Life's a Bitch came together, and I've been saying this for years, that Nas did his thing, and maybe he just did his verse so effortlessly. And Illmatic is definitely a 1A through 1C or D, all-time top 3 album in the genre, history of the genre. But I still don't know if AZ didn't edge him out on that particular song, just because of the combination of the flow and the seeming like he didn't take a breath for like 8 bars or something, and the double rhyming and all of that, and how it and the thought, the subject matter of his verse and the philosophy on life. It was just like this dude is phenomenal. And I likened it to the fact that this is like Klay Thompson playing under the shadow of Steph Curry, but then here comes Klay Thompson going for 37 points in one quarter. And this is kind of what AZ did here, in my opinion, stealing the show on that particular record. Till we expire and turn to vapors. There's just the imagery and the like I said, the thought, the depth, the critical thinking to put that together, and I was blown away by it. So that was one thing that stood out to me, was the discussion on that. And then the other thing, and this out of the blue, the shocker in this whole thing was there's a white guy named Daniel Glass who was an exec of EMI Records, I believe. But this guy sat here and he said he went to a listening party for Nas's project. And he said he was at the party and he heard Life's a Bitch come on. And he said he immediately fell in love or gravitated towards AZ's portion or verse of Life's a Bitch and was like just completely enamored with his verse. And he said he went to go ask somebody, oh, well, I gotta meet this Nas after hearing that. And somebody that was with him pointed out, that's not even Nas, that's AZ. And he was like, well, I gotta meet AZ. And so he went and met AZ and ended up signing AZ. And Do or Die was actually recorded in Electric Lady Land, I'm sorry, but Jimi Hendrix studio where he did all of his stuff. That was a phenomenon. I didn't know that back in the day. But they just speak about crafting that record. But this exec, you tell me right now what white music executive has a genuine appreciation for the lyrical content and the thought of what AZ was putting in his lyrics, and to think that I think other people and consumers and listeners need to hear this guy. And he said he went and agreed to give AZ whatever he needed to work with, whoever he needed to work with to get that project done. And just to hear this guy, I'm sure he was in his early 20s or mid 20s when he was supporting this project, but to sit there today and listen to him at 50 or whatever he is now, I just don't think that's happening right now. I don't think that type of standard or expectation is out there right now for the types of projects that are being released to the public, which creates a whole nother discussion. I done ran out of my time, but again, huge salute to BET. It's great that they have those types of resources to go and do projects like that, and it's awesome that somebody had the gumption to put it together and to focus on this type of stuff. The project or the video is narrated by Rifkind and Lyor, and like I said, that's the digital space, the digital videos, the mini documentaries, the 3 or 4 big time documentaries that are on Netflix, the podcast, rest in peace to Combat Jack. That's where hip hop has really lived the past 3 years for me. So I would just suggest, if you're on Facebook, one of the beautiful reasons to be on Facebook was to go beyond, to have access to a video like that and hear some little known facts about a project, of that magnitude. And then lastly, whether or not you think either guy was better on Life's a Bitch, what do you think when they ran it back on Mo Money, Mo Murder, Mo Homicide? A slower song. I think they both had multiple or 2 verses a person on there, just a more in-depth song versus how succinct Life's a Bitch was. But holla at me in the comments if you want to chop it up about the 20 years, hashtag 20 years later BET clip. And I'm also going to be looking out, are there other artists that they've done that on? But chop it up with me about that. And then, just make any comment whatsoever. please subscribe to the channel, and let's get together more so in the future, and provide any type of feedback. Like I said, as I get ready to do these two things on this one channel, which is the Bite Down boxing coverage, and then the Pay Me No Mind sports and entertainment, lifestyle pieces. So that's kind of really what I wanted to share. I just really enjoyed it. That made my day. Broke up the week, the midweek, day to day, and wow, it'd be awesome if to be involved with a project like that. So again, as I finish everything, I was trying to think if I had one more point to make. Maybe Friday, I might do a live stream recapping season 3 of Insecure. If you made it to this part in the video and you're a fan of Issa Rae's Insecure, I think I'm gonna do actually, I got my notes right here and would have done it earlier, but I'm just now getting back from the gym and I'm about to go to bed after this shower. But yeah, so probably Friday, I could do a live stream and talk about my 6 points about Insecure. So again, if you dig what I'm doing here, the discussions I'm trying to have, the topics I'm trying to create a space for us to talk about things on a different level, holla at me. And again, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Peace.